You only live once, so you better get up. Don't ever give up. And be strong. If you be strong, they'll follow.
For me to register as a foreign agent is to give America control over what I say. And that's what America wants, is control over what I say. In the foreign agent law, you can't influence public opinion. That's my business, to influence public opinion, especially when liars are deceiving the American people. So no, I will never register as a foreign agent because I'm not that.
Farrakhan.
My job was to get up quickly and get out of America and connect the nation of Islam and Black America to Africa, to the Middle East, and to the Muslim world. That was why I had to go.
And one of the first places he went to was Libya, where he received a warm welcome from Muammar Gaddafi.
The Libyan news agency, JANA, reported Libyan leader Muammar Gaddafi saying the following: "Our confrontation with America used to be like confronting a fortress from outside. Today we have found a loophole to enter the fortress from within." You are a loophole for Muammar Gaddafi, who you say offered you $1 billion, who has in the past given you $5 million?
Well, he offered me more than $1 billion. He offered me the wealth of the nation of Libya behind the nation of Islam.
You were a loophole for Muammar Gaddafi?
Well, I don't know what he means by loophole. Maybe you ought to invite him on 60 Minutes
I have.
and ask him. But certainly, I can't be a functionary for Muammar Gaddafi. However, I would be most happy to detail my conversation with him if I'm subpoenaed before Congress.
That subpoena to talk to the Congress about his travels to America's enemies in the Middle East has not been issued.
You go to Nigeria, which is, if not the most corrupt nation in Africa, and it is, it could be the most corrupt nation in the world, Minister Farrakhan.
Oh, now, Mr. Wallace.
It is the most corrupt nation that I have ever covered. I've been there 25 years ago, and I've been there as recently as last year.
Fine. So what? 35 years old. That's what that nation is. Now, here's America, 226 years old. You love democracy, but there in Africa, you're trying to force these people into a system of government that you just have accepted. 30 years ago, black folk got the right to vote. You're not in any moral position to tell anybody how corrupt they are. You should be quiet and let those of us who know our people go there and help them get out of that condition. But America should keep her mouth shut wherever there's a corrupt regime, as much hell as America has raised on the earth. No, I will not allow America or you, Mr. Wallace, to condemn them as the most corrupt nation on earth when you have spilled the blood of human beings. Has Nigeria dropped an atomic bomb and killed people in Hiroshima and Nagasaki? Have they killed off millions of Native Americans? How dare you put yourself in that position as a moral judge? I think you should keep quiet, because with that much blood on America's hands, you have no right to speak. I will speak because I don't have that blood on my hand. Yes, there's corruption there. Yes, there's mismanagement of resources. Yes, there is abuse. There's abuse in every nation on earth, including this one. So let's not play holy to moralize on them. Let's help them.
I'm not moralizing. I'm asking a question, and I got an answer.
Why would you put it as the most corrupt regime in the world? That doesn't make sense.
Can you think of one more corrupt?
Yeah, I'm living in one. I'm living in one. Yes, you've done a hell of a thing on this earth, so you should not be the one to talk. You should be quiet when it comes to moral condemnation, in my judgment. I didn't mean to be so fiery.
No, that's good. That's good.
That's my passion.
And you believe that then?
Oh, yes, I believe it now. History is not false. If he says that the white man did all these things, I did not write the white man's history. That history is written in murder, in the bloodshed of the darker peoples of the world, and even in the bloodshed of your own people.
Back at that. But you are suggesting that it's basically the white man's fault.
Oh, no, Mr. Wallace. I am not going to say that. Because justice would not be served if I said it was all the fault of white people.
Reason that
we have to take some blame in this ourselves. As black people, we can't sit around waiting for white people to do for us what we should be doing for ourselves. And our failure to do this is our fault. White folk have done bad by us in the past. Yes, that is true. And they do some bad by us today. But if we did better by ourselves today, we could help to reconcile this difference.
Farrakhan's call for black men to do better for themselves was the theme of his Million Man March. His message, change your lives. But after the march, he says, he was depressed, somehow sad, hurt by the mainstream media who he felt failed to give him proper credit for his extraordinary accomplishment in organizing the march. He withdrew to the Nation of Islam's compound in Phoenix, Arizona. He disappeared from the public eye for almost 3 months. Then he reemerged for that tour of Africa and the Middle East. Professor Lincoln told me
He was disgusted with your trip to the Middle East and to Africa. He said, he blew it, you. After the Million Man March, he feels that you had what you were after. You had put yourself in the position as a leader of the entire black community in America, which you had never had before, and then that you just threw it away with the trip to Africa.
You know.
Now, this is from a man,
Yes.
scholar, been a guest in your home,
Yes.
loves you and your wife.
And I love him. Let me say this. There are many people like Dr. Lincoln who think just like that. They were hurt because they watched my struggle. And they said, now he has arrived, okay?
Right.
And they felt not only that I had arrived for me, I had arrived for them because secretly they have wanted to embrace Louis Farrakhan. And just as they were about to put their arms around me, I went to Africa and the Middle East. And to quote them, I blew it.
You spoke, in their view, against your own country.
You know, some of your best patriots are those who never went along with the government position. Listen, everyone that stepped back from me, they didn't run away. They're behind a tree looking. Is he going to make it? How's he going to get out of this one? Oh, my God, I'm not a politician. I don't do what people think I should do. I do what God inspires me to do. Which one of these leaders would have asked me to call for 1 million men to come to Washington? Not one. That was an inspiration from God that I followed, and they all applauded. Great thing you did. God inspired me to get up and leave this country, and before long, those same critics will say, I was wrong, Farrakhan.
I want to show you now.
I know you want to kill me, but I just raised the price. You want me dead, but you gonna pay a price to get that result.
Who wants to kill you? Why?
I believe that conversation is raging right now in government circles. Because I appear to be interfering with America's foreign policy objectives in Africa and in the Middle East, they want me kind of silenced or muzzled. And if they can destroy my credibility, as they did Martin Luther King first, take him down in the eyes of his people and then assassinate him, I don't believe that America is beyond that. I believe it's being discussed right now in the White House. I believe it's being discussed by certain members of Congress. How are you going to deal with Farrakhan? Yes, I presented you with a dilemma, but I'm warning America. I'm not Martin Luther King. I'm not Malcolm X. I'm in a little different time frame. And I think you would be wise to see if God is with me. And if God is with me, you would be well to leave me alone. Life.
You were brought up as an Episcopalian?
Yes, sir.
By your mother?
Yes, sir.
And your father, what did you know of your father?
Very little. Very little. He was from the Caribbean, from the island of Jamaica, a very light-skinned black man who I believe had white parentage, black and white parentage. He was a philanderer, if you pardon the expression, and my mother broke up with him and reared us by herself.
It was his mother who encouraged him to play the violin, which he still plays today. In fact, the man born 63 years ago as Louis Eugene Walcott, who grew up in Roxbury, Massachusetts, originally wanted a career in show business as a singer. It was in 1955, after hearing the Honorable Elijah Muhammad speak, that he dedicated his voice to the black Muslim movement.
'Cause that's the only way we're gonna be free.
Now he was Louis X. His mentor was Malcolm X, who was eventually gunned down at Harlem's Audubon Ballroom in 1965. Farrakhan has steadfastly denied any involvement in that murder.
But I can say, Mr. Wallace, that atonement and reconciliation is absolutely necessary. And we took that theme from Jewish tradition.
You don't trust the media, you've said so. You don't trust whites, you've said so. You don't trust Jews, you've said so. Well, here I am, white, Jewish, and a reporter. So why in the world did you trust me enough to sit down to talk to me this way,
Well,
Minister Farrakhan?
Let me say this. I would not say that all whites and all Jews and all media are untrustworthy. That is not a fair characterization of my
That's
thinking.
the perception of a lot
Fine.
of people in America.
Perception is not necessarily reality.
That's
Take
a
look at this
message of reconciliation. It's bound to be perceived as anti-Semitic, and you know it, and you do it over and over again.
I quoted, the synagogue of Satan is part of a scripture in the book of Revelations, the 2nd chapter and the 3rd chapter. It says, and I quote, "Those who say they are Jews and are not, I will make them of the synagogue of Satan."
The people you're talking to there, the people who saw that on television, they aren't students of the Bible as you are. They don't know the scripture as you do. What they hear, what I heard, was overtones of absolute, you were sticking it to the Jews once again.
In reality, Mr. Wallace, you know, I've heard whites and Jews say they're good and bad in every race.
Yeah.
And if they're good and bad in every race, does that not apply to Jews? Are there good Jews and are there bad Jews? And if there are good Jews, what constitutes a good Jew?
Give me a list of a half a dozen good Jews.
No. Only God knows who the good are. There are good appearing Muslims, there are good appearing Christians, there are good appearing Jews, but God knows who is good. And so the good are those who live by the standard that makes you a Jew. Once you deviate from that standard, you're not a Jew anymore, from my vantage point.
Have you talked about bad Muslims?
Of course.
Who?
There are bad Muslims. There are Muslims who deviate from the path of God. I'm not anti-Semitic. I do not hate Jews. I want this to be very clear. I do not hate Jews. I do not hate people because their skin is white. What I hate is evil and injustice and exploitation, whether a black does it, whether a white does it, whether a Jew, a Muslim, or a Christian does it.
And Farrakhan, despite all his past rhetoric, now says he wants to make a genuine effort at reconciliation with the Jewish community in America.
I am willing to visit the board of rabbis in any city in America, sit down and talk with those scholars of Judaism. I am willing to visit a synagogue and speak to the Jewish people because I do not want Jewish children to believe that they have somebody who, if he comes into great power, will put them in ovens. I don't want that for my children. I don't want that for your children. And if we don't want that for our children, then the question is, what are we willing to do today to stave off any ugly future?
Have you made that kind of a suggestion before, Minister Farrakhan?
Yes, I have.
And what has been the response?
Well, there are always preconditions. Well, Farrakhan, if you tone down your rhetoric...
Well, you sure haven't toned down your rhetoric.
I can't tone down what I believe to be truth. And if it's truth and if I'm in error, how am I going to know that? Unless there's a dialogue. And you say, no, Farrakhan, here's the truth. And if you can show me that I love truth, and I hope that I'm humble enough to be open enough to see the truth if you show it to me. I could say, well, we've heard that before too, of reconciliation. Look at the Indians, look at all the treaties that were signed, and look at where they are. So let's not talk about trust, because I really don't think that you've earned trust. But we can earn it together, but time is running out on all of us. And I think if we're going to make that move, why not let's make it now?
You only live once, so you better get up. Don't ever give up. And be strong. If you be strong, they'll follow.